All right, YouTube, here it is. First off, let me start by apologizing for it taking me forever. I really didn't know the best way to approach this. Should I write up some kind of script, or should I just freehand it, or what have you? So I just decided, frack it, let's just freehand it, and I will explain how I went about the process of making my costume and everything. So let's just get right down to it. So the idea came to me to make a costume a couple of years ago. I'm pretty sure everybody that surfs YouTube and whatnot, finding those, I guess, like convention videos, people walking around dressed up in fully automated Iron Man armor, and it's just like moving parts, back flaps, the helmet coming up and down, and everything like that. So it's like, okay, I need to make a costume. I have zero experience in anything electrical like that, actuators and pressure switches, or if people have that, I guess, pressure switches in their suit. So I have zero experience with that. So I was like, okay, you know what? Let's make something simple. Let's make something basic. And so it's just, this is it. I go on Google and I'm just, okay, I want to make a Star Wars outfit because I have a lot of lightsabers. You guys seen my other videos, me just reviewing the lightsabers that I got. And I'm like, okay, let's make something Star Wars themed because I have all of these lightsabers. It's just like, I can do this. So I'm Googling Jedi battle armor, and I happen to come across this one picture that the only way I could describe it is a cybernetic Jedi ninja. That's the only way that I could describe this. So I was like, okay, this looks badass. This is something that I want to make. Again, having zero experience in doing this, I choose the most detailed thing I can imagine to make as my first costume. First, let me start by saying this whole chest piece here is not in the actual picture. If you guys look at the icon for my channel, that's part of the picture, or that is basically the picture that I was trying to go for. So it's like, okay, yeah, this wasn't like such a smart idea or a smart move on my part, but I stuck with it, and it took me a while to actually get into the role of things. So it's like, I bought 10mm craft foam, I bought a sewing machine, and I bought some contact cement to start off with. So it's like, okay, I'm watching videos from Kamui Cosplay and other channels on how to make a helmet. One of which also was, I believe, Evil Ted, which his videos are awesome. I was watching like maybe one video of his on how he just made the pattern for a helmet numerous times. And so I decided to make a helmet, and I made it, but then I've quickly realized that it was too thick for what I wanted, and it was way too small. So that didn't work out. And I tried to make a second helmet, and again, it was still too thick and still too small. So I was like, all right, let me stop with the helmets. Let me just focus on trying to make the costume. So I start by making gloves for a few months, and because me personally, I honestly feel that like the gloves are the hardest part of the costume, because you want to get the curve of the fingertips just right. You want to get the curve of the webbing just right. If it's too high, it's gonna look wrong. If it's too deep, it's not gonna fit properly. It's not gonna be comfortable. So it's like, I'm practicing on making gloves for a while. So after I got comfortable enough with the gloves, I waited even longer to actually get to the suit. I was procrastinating very, very badly. But one day I was like, all right, frack it. If I mess up, I mess up. I'll just have to get a new pattern. So I took the pattern. It was Ultimate Bodysuit, cosplay Ultimate Bodysuit, I believe, by Yaya Han, the male figure one. So I take that pattern and I'm trying to remember my size, because like I was more focused like along the waist area for the fitting, like it not being too loose or too tight. So I was trying to remember my pant size, and I look at a pair of shorts that I have and it said 38. So on the pattern, it was 38, I believe, 42, 46, or 48. So I just cut out all the pieces. I cut out all the pieces in 38, and I was like, okay, that's done. Now just transfer that on to the fabric and then cut that out. So the best way that I went about that, again, after watching numerous videos, is that you want to basically cut the fabric, like you want to fold the fabric on itself, and then put the pattern on top of that, and then cut the pattern out, cut the fabric out along the pattern so you have two pieces. And I do that for the arms, the legs, the chest, and the back. And I go, in all honesty, it took me maybe about 2.5 months. I was working on this basically most of the week. Well, like maybe 2 or 3 days here and there, just not working on the costume at all. So if you guys can see the gloves are like my favorite part of this entire costume. It's just, I love the way these gloves came out. I love the way they look. Basically, I pretty much like free drew everything. After, actually, I wore a plastic glove, like a latex glove, and I drew the pattern on the latex glove. So if you guys can see like how everything looks, it's all separated. I basically drew the pattern again on a latex glove, cut that out, and then I transferred that onto the foam. And so yeah, I basically just did that for all the pieces, cut everything out, and then the way that I glued it on, I wanted to have this I guess fluid motion, or just like this one piece look. So I took my hot glue gun and I put glue on the underside, and then I kind of like smeared it around, trying to get real close to the edges as I could. And then I put each piece onto the glove, held it down, and whatever piece was still raised, I basically had like a big glob of like cooled down glue from my hot glue gun on some foil. So I just took the heated tip, put it into that glue until it got nice and soft and pliable, and I just basically colored in all the way to the edge, and I held that down, trying to get, you know, that real fluid one-piece look. It's still, you know, like, I guess, like, with usage and wear and tear and what have you, it ends up peeling back, so it's not permanent, but for the time that you need it to look like it, it'll last that long. But yeah, so I just did that with the knuckles. I did with the back of the hand. Pretty much I tried to get like every bending point to be open. I would have liked to have like something, I guess like some notch or just like some white peg or what have you, just like right on each knuckles, but then I felt like that would be too much. So it's just like, I just went with how these look. Alright, so it's like, it looks really good. It feels good. Luckily, the fabric is still thin enough that I can use my phone, but it's still tough, so it's like you gotta really push. But, you know, it works just fine. So, moving on up to the bracers. This is basically 2 pieces of Worbla and 1 piece of craft foam. Now, if you guys can see where it's like indented at, and it's just, yeah, I really like how this border looks. So I basically did the sandwich method. For those that don't know anything about Worbla, basically Worbla is a type of thermoplastic. When you get it, it looks like cardboard gingerbread kind of texture, But again, it's thermoplastic, so when you heat it up, it gets really, really, really loose, kind of like a wet noodle. And but at that stage, it is extremely hot, so you need to be very careful with it. But you can basically shape Worbla to however you want or whatever you want, and when it cools down, it becomes really sturdy and really strong. It's still, you know, like you're still able to bend it, but you need to put some force behind it, especially if you're using more than 2 or 3 layers. You need to put like some real force behind what you're doing in order to actually get it to move. But I basically drew the pattern for the bracer and transferred that over to EVA foam, and then I cut that out, and then I took the whole piece, that whole design, and put it on one piece of Worbla. You warm up that one piece. I should have some scraps. I do have some scraps. All right, so this right here is Worbla, okay? So you'll have one side that looks, you know, like the cardboard, gingerbread texture. Then you have the other side, still looks like that, but it has this sheen to it. So that sheen is pretty much the adhesive. So what I did was I took the EVA foam, and then I put, or the 2mm craft foam, excuse me, I put the craft foam on the sheen part of the Worbla as it was heated, so it's like nice and pliable. And then I take another piece of Worbla and I put it on top of that. Heat the whole thing up, and then take, you know, you could use scissors, or you can use a metal nail filer, or something that won't stick to the Worbla. And you just use that. I used, me personally, I used a pair of scissors. Took my scissors, and then I basically, excuse me, I basically just went along the border of the craft foam so that it got this pretty neat border look to it. I really like how that looks. And then I just cut as close to the border as I could without getting too close, because if you do the sandwich method and you get too close to that border, it's going to open up. And I didn't want that to happen, so I cut out as close as I could without getting too close, and I got this sweet looking border. And with the whole thing still warm, I have 2 rolls of like that real thick cardboard that comes with saran wrap, and they're pretty. I have one that's pretty large and another that's like, I would say, regular size. And I used the large one to basically like shape or like get that real curve look to it. And as it was starting to cool down and not so hot, I put it on my arm and then just like formed it to my arm. So around here, like this side comes out a little more than this side because of my wrists. So that's pretty much what I did for the bracers. Same thing, same process with this one. Just 2 pieces of Worbla, 1 piece of craft foam, and got that sweet looking border, and that's how I did those. With the knees, it's basically 2 parts. Well, 4 pieces of Worbla, 2 pieces of craft foam, and I basically just did the sandwich. Actually, this one I didn't do sandwich method, so it's actually 2 pieces of Worbla and 2 pieces of craft foam. I basically took 1 piece of craft foam and put it over the foam. I took 2 pieces of Worbla, put it over the craft foam, and then I just like rolled the edges over as it was warm. Just rolled the edges over, and then I put the 2 points at the bottom together, and I just melded it into each other until I got the desired look. And I pretty much did the same method as the knees with the calf. So basically, if you can see this seam right down the middle and this seam right here, this is where I joined the 2 parts together, and I just melded it in. Same thing with this, just melded it all together, and I tried to shape this to my leg as best as I could. And it's, you know, it's still a little rough. I tried to file it down using a Dremel and getting like all those points, but I might have gotten a little too close, so there's some parts on, or there's some areas on the calf piece that's the Worbla has like been filed a little too close to the foam, so I had to stop with that. But yeah, that was how I did the calf pieces, and that's how I did the knee pieces. Now the thigh piece, I basically took I actually didn't have to take anything. I had the suit on, and I took some masking tape, and I put masking tape going all across the thigh, and I drew on one side, let's get this out the way. From here, at this point, I drew all the way around to about the same point on the lower half, and took that whole piece off, cut that out of the masking tape, and put what was left on craft foam, and just, traced around that, took that off, flipped it over, and then traced around that, and then boom, I had that piece. And then it's just hot glue, Hot glue fixes everything. Until the suit gets really hot, and then the glue starts to get really soft, and it starts to fall apart. Other than that, yeah, this piece was pretty much the longest, I would say, because I had a real problem with the belt piece. So the way I did this, it's faux leather, brown faux leather, and when you're sewing something, for those that don't know, me included, I did not know you needed to have the side that's going to be on the outside. You had to have those two pieces facing each other. So you needed the positives facing together and the negatives facing outward when you're sewing something. That's because when you flip it inside out, you don't see the seam of where you sewed at. So I was following basically everything that I've seen online on YouTube, and I had the two positives facing each other so the negatives were out, and I just sewed one line going straight across from one end to the other on both sides. And then I flipped it inside out, and I was like, okay, I'm done. And I really look at it, and I'm like, this doesn't look right, it doesn't look neat, it looks tacky. So I needed to, hem it up a little bit. So I flipped it back inside out, so positives are facing each other again. And then I unclipped maybe about an inch or so from each point, from each of the corners, and I folded those inside, and then I sewed over that, so I got that hem. And then when I folded it back inside out, from positives being on the outside, it still didn't look right, so I did this top stitch, and for the life of me, I don't know why, but I ended up breaking 2 needles on my sewing machine, and on one of the sides, I believe yes, if you guys can see this, how it looks like it's going fine, and then there's a gap, and then a little bit fine, and then there's a really big gap, and then another and another. It's just, I had that problem on one side of the belt cover, and it just went all the way across. It's just like, it looks like it sewed fine, and then next thing you know, there's a bunch of gaps. It's just like, I don't know why that happened, because the other side, it sewed just fine, all the way straight through, nice and neat looking, and it was good. This side, I had to undo it like 3 times. The fourth, I was thinking about doing it a 4th time, but I needed to get some sleep, because I was up until like almost 4 in the morning working on this. Nobody warns you when you're making your own costumes, you're going to be spending obscene amount of time on it. So more than likely, if you have a day job, make sure you start your suits early, like in the afternoon or in the evening if you can, because you'll be working on it for hours. Coming to completion with the costume, I had worked on it Thursday. I went to Comic-Con on the 5th. That was a Friday. So I had worked on it from like the last few days was the 3rd and then the 4th. And it's like the 3rd, I stayed up until like maybe 4 o'clock in the morning, went to sleep for 4 hours, got up, and then I went to work, worked all day off of 4 hours, and then I literally pulled an all-nighter on Thursday, and I was exhausted, but I didn't get no sleep. So the chess piece was last minute, and I honestly did not mean for it to come out looking like an alien head, because these two pieces here were supposed to be separate, and then it was like a last minute choice. I was like, all right, now let's just keep it connected. That way it's just a lot easier to work with. And then when I put it on and everything, it's just like eyes, mouthpiece, I guess, and then head. So, you know, it worked out fine. It was great, in my opinion. But I love this costume. This is my first ever costume that I made. So, I didn't even show you guys one of the best parts. This is, like, these are number one. Number two, helmet. Comes complete with the helmet. So, this, basically, I did using foil and tape. A lot of duct tape and a lot of foil. So, like, I wrapped my head in foil, and then I put duct tape. I left one eye open so I could see where I'm drawing the design. And I basically drew, like, maybe about here or so, coming down to, like, the side of my eye, one piece. And then from the base of my neck all the way up to my chin, another piece. And the construction of this is the sandwich method with Worbla. Quick reminder, make sure you have tons of Worbla if you're going to be doing the sandwich method, because you're going to be using a lot of Worbla, especially if you're making a helmet. But this helmet is actually two pieces. It's here, it's all of this, all the main face part, the top of the head, and then the second piece is the back of the head. And this is connected by using elastic strips. So I have 4 elastic strips. I have 2 on both sides. So there's one here and one here. And then I have 2 right at the point of my thumb and my pointer finger. And I felt it would be a lot easier, you know, like putting it on and taking it off. It's just like, it gives a little bit more room for some mobility. And it does, but it gets real stuffy in here, so like that's kind of an issue. I need to work on like making helmets and whatnot. But I put, for the lenses, because I didn't want to just like leave this open. If you can see that glare, there you go, this glare. In the pictures, the eyes are green, and there's 4 eyes too, but I didn't want to do the 4-eye thing, so I just went with the 2. I basically used a ginger ale bottle. I had a 3-liter ginger ale bottle, empty, in my room, and I was like, okay, I need something green that I can see through, and I'm not trying to get like that film that's like a 2-way mirror, I guess. Just like the green film, and then put it on something clear, and then just put it on. That's too much work, that's too much money, and that's just too much time waiting to get what I need. So it's like, I basically just MacGyvered it, you know? I just cut out the eye holes for the helmet. After I cut it out, like, you could see the layers of the Worbla craft foam and then more Worbla. So what I did with that is I took more Worbla, long enough for the shape of the eye, and then I just folded that on and then warmed it up and then just like pushed it down and like kind of like tried to fuse it in with the helmet to make it look natural. And after I did that, I take the bottle, I cut 2 pieces out, and I just hot glued it on into the inside. So if you guys can see in here, yeah, basically right there is where I glued, and it ended up getting like really hot, so some of it kind of shrunk. This is like the second part that I had to do, because the first time I did it, I had to take it off because too much heat and it started to curl up on itself. But I did that, and that's pretty much how I got this helmet. So, you know, same thing, same method with the knee pieces and the shin pieces. It's just pushed the points from here to here together, tried to make that one piece. Did the same thing from the bottom of the chin to the base of the top of the crown, and then the same thing from on the other side. Just push those two pieces together and then just try to form it. And then with the back piece, this is two pieces made one, just point to point, just pushed it together and shaped it. That's pretty much what I did with this. Shoulder pieces, I tried to make the shoulder pieces look as close to the picture as I could, but it kept coming out with this little wing piece, and I actually like the way it looks. So it's like the shoulder pieces are actually two pieces of or two different types of craft foam. It's the white on top and then black on the under. Like, if you guys can see that. It's black on the under, white on top, and I cut these triangles out to give it some more, I guess, like definition or some more flair. I'm not really sure of the correct term, but to me it works. It adds to the overall look. It just makes it pop a little more. And yeah, and with the belt piece, I just took some white 4-way stretch fabric and glued it onto the underside of the belt cover, and that's pretty much how I got this piece. Like, this costume should have a cloak, but I don't think I'm gonna make one, mainly because of the shoulder pieces. It'll be a little difficult to get the cloak on and off, so I'm not gonna be bothered with that. But I may think of something for like cloak-ish in the future for this costume. I'm not entirely too sure yet. But this is what... Oh, forgot about the shoes. Shoe covers. So basically what I did with this, I took... I have DC sneakers underneath the shoe covers. And me personally, I love DC sneakers. I love the shape. I just love DC sneakers. They're really comfortable. They're really affordable. But these particular sneakers, I liked the round shape to it in the front, and I felt that it would look really, really great with the costume. So I basically just took duct tape. I just covered my whole shoe in duct tape, and then I drew the pattern that, like you guys see on the white. I drew the pattern out, and then I cut those pieces out off of the tape and put the tape onto packing paper. That way, if I put the tape straight onto craft foam and I try to pull it off, it's going to destroy the foam. So I put the design on, actually no, what am I talking about? It was all on foil. It was all on foil. I just take the foil, put that on craft foam, trace all of that out, cut all of that out, and then I use tape again, but this time with the tape, the second time with the tape, it was to make the shoe cover. So the shoe cover is basically 3 parts, 1 on the bottom, and then 2 for both sides. And actually, my mistake. It's just 2 pieces. Bottom piece and then the top piece. I sewed everything together, and that's basically the shoe cover. And then I just take the foam and just glued it on. On the bottom of the shoe cover, this is basically like it's like a rubber floor mat. I took my shoe, traced the outer sole onto the rubber mat, and I just cut that out, and then I glued that onto the bottom of the shoe cover. And that's how I got this. So basically, this is just sewing, hot glue. That's it. What I'm using to keep the bracers, knee pads, and shin guards on, Velcro. So I just took this one strip here, same on the right, and then it's just one big piece in the center for both knees, and then for the shin, I have one piece here, and then I have one piece on the back. And the way that I did that, I took one piece, both the hook side and the loop side, and I cut out a piece big enough that'll fit on the back of the shin guards or the shin armor, and then I took the hook side, put that on the costume, and then the loop side I left closed on the shin armor, and then I just cut where the seam was at, if you guys can see right here. Basically, I just left the Velcro on, and I just cut going along the seam, and that's pretty much how I got this. But all in all, this costume took me about maybe 2 months to do, not from start to finish, because starting, I think in July is when I cut the pattern out, and I put the pattern on the fabric, and I cut all that out and everything, and then I waited a while until I actually started sewing. But from sewing to finish was about 2 months. I started in like early August and ended October 5th. So this is what the outfit looks like with the helmet on. So if you guys can still hear me, it sounds like I'm talking in a can, but please bear with me. The helmet itself is comfortable, especially if you have a lot of hair. The hair helps it from moving around all over the place. But it gets really, really stuffy, and that's really the only drawback, is the stuffy. It is a little big-ish, but it still looks good. And like walking around with a couple of lightsabers, it's just like, you know, you can't really go wrong. So again, this is my first costume. Please do me a favor. I want you guys to be honest and as critical as you guys can in the comments section below. Tell me what you guys think. Tell me what you guys thought I should have done differently or that I could add on. You know, it's just give me some kind of feedback, because my next costume, and yes, I did say my next costume, I would give you guys a little preview right now, but I'm not too sure about that. That may be in another video. But I really would like to make my own costumes. You know, it's just, I don't want to say something that I've always wanted to do, but it is something that I would like to do. So again, please let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Share the video with your friends, you know, like just, you know, do what every YouTuber does. Just put everyone else out there. Thank you for watching, and this is Cassian out.